Welcome to the History of Humanics podcast. You are listening to episode 1, our first ever episode. I am your host, Danny Priest, and I am joined by two very special guests. We have my top left Zoom corner, former Professor of Humanics, current Professor of Communications, Marty Dobrow, and we have Springfield College President, Mary-Beth Cooper. Before we get to anything else, thank you both so much for joining, and I know you guys are doing good because we all survived the 2020 fall semester, but how's it feel to be here on the podcast?
You can take it, President Cooper.
It feels great. It's what a great opportunity to reflect back on what's at our core. And so I always think at the end of the semester that some time of reflection is very, very healthy for not only the individual, but the institution. And so this is a great opportunity for us to sit back, talk about maybe what brought us here, what's kept us here, and what continues to draw our new members.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely right on target. It's a matter of reconnecting to our sort of our DNA, our sense of purpose. It's a very special thing about Springfield College. I think the college is, if not unique, it is certainly one of a very, very few schools where the mission statement is so universally known. And it's something that I think everyone in the Springfield College community, administration, faculty, staff, students, alums, all feel a sense of real pride in. So it's a great opportunity to talk about that central bonding thing about Springfield College.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to hear from both of you on some of your own personal thoughts about Humanics. I have a couple of questions that I want to ask too. But before we do that, I have a couple of, I guess you could call them like fast facts about Humanics, just in case people watching or listening don't know what Humanics is, or maybe it's their first time learning about it. So Humanics philosophy is defined as education of the person in spirit, mind, and body for leadership and service to others. I think all of us associated with Springfield College know how much that kind of means to us and how much it ties to the school's identity. First Humanics professor at the school goes all the way back to 1967. Not really my time, not really any of our times, we'll say. And Seth Aronson was actually the first Humanics professor. So since then, over 53 years, there's been 45 different Humanics professors. I know now the way we do it is just 1 year and then somebody new takes over. Those early years, I know I was looking back at the list of professors, and a couple of times they doubled up, did like 2-year stints at a time. Maybe we'll touch on that at some point, but that's just one thing to know now. And not on today, but the next Professor of Humanics is going to be Mary Ann Coughlin. She was named over this semester. I think I've talked to you both separately about that, and definitely excited for her to get the chance to do that and put kind of her own stamp on Humanics and what it means to her. And I think she's coming off a strong one by Judy, who's going to be coming on this podcast too in the future soon. So we'll get to all that, but the first thing I want to ask both of you is Humanics in itself is kind of constantly changing and evolving. I think from year to year, kind of period to period, what Humanics means, how it gets played out, kind of changes depending on the time. So I wanted to ask both of you, why does that matter, and why is it important that Humanics continues to evolve and stay kind of modern versus being stagnant? We can go, President Cooper, if you want to answer first, and then Marty, you can go second.
Well, I do think what is so powerful about Humanics is that it's timeless. And the fact that it could be relevant in 1957 or 2020 tells you that your mission is enduring and that it has a stability, which is really powerful. And so you talked about Seth being the first one, and then one of your conversations is going to be with our most current one. And I believe Mary Ann's topic, Dr. Coughlin's topic, will be about the intersection between the pandemic and the social justice issues that we've dealt with this fall. And I would say that we leaned on our Humanics more this fall than ever before. And so if you have something, again, that is so powerful, regardless of the date on your calendar, then you know you've got something that's really good. I think I mentioned to you, Danny, in a different conversation when I interviewed here, now 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, when I came to the campus and I saw humanics and I looked it up like any good candidate would do, tried to find it in the dictionary and the word didn't exist there. And then I started reading some of the commentary about what it was, and I understood that it was more powerful than Webster could even imagine in terms of the ethos of the campus, the spirit of the campus, and the commitment of the individuals of the campus to others. And so I love the fact that students know our mission, and that if you walked on this campus and asked 10 individuals, I think 9 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10 would be able to recite our mission statement verbatim. And I've never worked at another college where that's been possible or even probable. People might say, oh, we're committed to liberal arts, or we're committed to one thing or another, or we're a land grant institution. But for people to be able to articulate the mission tells you that it's what drew people here, and it drew me here. And I didn't even understand it when I came to be a president here. And I certainly understand it far better today than I did then.
Mhm.
Turn that over to Marty for his commentary.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I think it's just a fascinating, enduring strand of Springfield College from its inception. We came in 1885 as an institution, and to a lot of outsiders, I think when they hear something about spirit, mind, and body, and leadership and service to others, it almost sounds as if it's just some label that has been put together by some new branding committee, that this is a marketing PR sort of thing that was minted a few years ago. In fact, it has been a part of Springfield College really from the get-go, and all of the triangles and Luther Gulick and all of that stuff. It really goes back to who we are, and it bonds people who are coming into Springfield College, from a social media generation, with the people who came to Springfield College when there were no airplanes flying yet in 1885, a very different era. And I know when I had the great opportunity to serve as the humanics professor in 2014, 2015, it was a year of tremendous privilege, tremendous opportunity, and really wanted it to come deeply from my heart and to connect the sort of deepest parts of me with what I felt were the deepest parts of the school. And I remember President Cooper referenced, the dictionary and how it's a word not in any dictionary. I always found that a very interesting thing about the school, and also the fact that we have, Merriam-Webster, the company, is right here in Springfield, and so it's the dictionary reference is locally significant. And I remember from my humanics lecture in 2015, before that, looking up where humanics would be in the dictionary if it were there, which it was not. But the other words on the page where it would belong were words like human, humane, humanity. I also thought it was funny that the expression "huh" was also would be on that page, like, what is this? And can you really figure this out? The reality is that everybody figures out, makes their own definition of it. And that's, to me, the beauty of the tradition of the humanics professor, is that everyone bonded by a real deep love for the college and what it stands for, but everyone sort of defines it for themselves. And that's one of the things that gives it a real enduring sense of life.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, Marty, in that response. And we're going to flip the order here. So I'll have you answer first and then President Cooper, because you're going to be coming at this question from different perspectives, but it works out really well. So what I wanted to ask was, why is it such an honor to be named the Professor of Humanics? Like, there's a lot of big traditions at Springfield College that might want to be considered one of the biggest ones. So Marty, you have the perspective of having received that, and for you, President Cooper, you get to kind of announce that every year, and I'm sure it doesn't diminish by year. So Marty, you can take that first, and then you can go off of there.
It sort of feels to me, and it's interesting because I never, until you asked this question right now, thought of this analogy, but it just popped into my head and it feels right. It feels almost as if I'm taking a leg with the Olympic torch. you know, that you're just going for your lap with the Olympic torch, and you're carrying it for a period of time and keeping that light going. And that's what it felt like to me. It's at Springfield College is an institution for faculty that teaching is the central part of what we're about. It's the biggest thing that we're evaluated on. It's the thing that draws most of us, I think, to come teach at Springfield College, really believe in education. You know, we have a president of this institution who has multiple degrees, who herself comes and teaches in the classroom, as I understand she's about to do yet again this next semester. It's a sense of how much teaching matters here. And it's your opportunity both to learn and to teach about something that's very central to you. So it was a big honor for me, and it just so happened to be that I had that honor bestowed upon me during President Cooper's first year at the college, which felt important to me. I mean, coincidental perhaps, but important, because I sensed from the beginning that she was going to be a really transformative presence on this campus, and that she was going to be someone who would get behind very strongly and believe in a lot of the social justice oriented initiatives that I was premising my humanics year on. I mean, that was the focal point of the stuff that I did. It was a lot about, you know, history of the college with Martin Luther King, with Tom Waddell. It was reaching out across the community to our campuses that are not in Springfield, which was then called the School of Human Services, going out there. It was those sorts of things that felt really important to me. And I knew, not just because she herself was something of a social justice figure as the first woman president at Springfield College, but I could just sense in our interaction that this was something that was going to be a very important part of her presidency. And in fact, I think that has played out. I mean, we have seen that with the minting of the Office of Inclusion and Community Engagement, the hiring of Dr. Calvin Hill, the fortifying of the Office of Multicultural Affairs, you know, the strengthening, especially during this academic year, of a number of student groups where you just feel the sense of those issues are surfacing. And they've always been an important part of Springfield College. I've always felt that we have two traditions, you know, a lot of traditions, but it's not just the basketball, the sports, the YMCA stuff, all hugely important. But we also have this deep strand of social justice history dating way back. And so it was a great opportunity for me to do some thinking about that, to share that, and to be able to do so during President Cooper's first year here really just felt absolutely right to me.
Well, your comments were kind. For me, this particular project that you're working on, Danny, in terms of talking to all of these professors of humanics, distinguished professors of humanics, it's a very important word because they certainly are. And in my own really instruction about what Springfield College was, I printed off, and this was again, now I probably would have just taken my laptop and scrolled through them all, but 8 years is 8 years. What I did is I printed off all of the lectures and all of their papers of the professors that came before Marty to try to get a sense of this institution and the culture. And now all of that is present on the website. There's a website you can go and look at, and I'm sure you'll be talking about that in your project. And we point candidates that are interviewing here to look at those particular papers and those presentations, because from my perspective, it is really humanics through the lens of a number of different disciplines, because the professors that stepped up to become the distinguished professors of humanics come from all different disciplines. We've had biologists, we've had people from English, we've had people from journalism, and that's really the beauty of it. That's the depth of it, so that you see humanics not just from one specific area, but you see it from across the institution. And there are a group of people that I've had an opportunity, those that are obviously still living and with us and that are willing and interested in traveling. We've convened them twice a year. I think they convene on their own. I don't get invited to all those gatherings, but I think they might get together on some other occasions. But we come together for dinner at my house or a barbecue at my house, and certainly at the dinner honoring the current Professor of Humanics, as well as introducing the next Professor of Humanics. And that is one of the highlights for me in the spring, because they are at the core of what I think is our faculty rank. I mean, they are they are our past and our present, and really our future. And so for me, they're a gem. And I think they enjoy each other, and they have a high level of respect for each other as well as the institution. And so when people ask what's different about Springfield College, they would be what's different about Springfield College from any other four-year private institution that we might have cross applications with. But again, it's the fact that their disciplines are different, but their perspective comes through one single lens.
Definitely. Awesome stuff. And last question from me before I turn it over to you guys for anything else you might want to add. I wanted to ask, and you've both been at the school for a while now. I know Marty a little bit longer than President Cooper has at this point. But I wanted to ask both of you if you had a favorite humanics moment from over the years. So maybe it was something you did yourself, something you observed. I don't know who wants to take this one first, because I know it's a little bit of a thinker. It's kind of open-ended, but if one of you has something that jumps right to mind, go ahead. So yeah, I got you both. You're both still.
Well,
Yeah.
mine's not really a favorite one, and and I'll tell it just because it's a funny story. There, and then I'll let Marty, and then maybe he'll throw it back to me. But Humanics in Action was a day that came out of the distinguished faculty members that looked at this particular item. Peter Polito, who you hopefully will have a chance to talk with him as well. And so our famous Humanics in Action Day that faculty and staff and students participated in for years and years and years. When I first came here, I also had the opportunity to participate in that day for a number of years. And one year I went into the neighborhood, and the first year they wanted me to go spot to spot and take pictures and kind of be a representative. And I said, I want to be somewhere where I can make a difference, and I'll be with one team for the whole day. So I went to a neighborhood, and we were cleaning gutters, scraping paint, and preparing a house for some painting that we ended up doing. And the homeowner learned, and we of course all had our Humanics in Action shirts on and jeans on. Someone must have mentioned the president of the college is outside cleaning her gutters out. And she came right out and said, oh, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm glad to meet you. So I understand you're going to finish this job. And she said, well, now I've got some yard work in the back that I need done as well. Do you think, are you available next weekend? And I said, well, actually, this is, one day that we do this. We do a lot of service projects, and I'm very proud of the 120,000 hours of service our students do. And she was not very interested in that. She said, well, so is that something you could come back and finish up next weekend? and so I said to my husband when I got home, I said, Dave, we've got to go over and clean the backyard out of this neighbor's house next weekend. He goes, okay. So it's funny that I think at Springfield College, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a first-year student or a tenured professor or the president of the college, we all buy into this mission, and I did it with pleasure. She doesn't, I guess she knows where I live, but she hasn't called me later to come shovel or anything, but we probably go do that too. And it's kind of who we are. Marty, what do you have?
I like that story very much. And it's that because, Peter Polito, who Danny, you definitely have to talk to for this podcast, because I think while everyone who has been a humanics professor, represents a piece of humanics, and I think wears it on their sleeves in various ways, I think Peter really represents so much of kind of like the heart and soul of humanics. And that day, which, fit our campus so powerfully for such a long period of time. And, the spirit of it obviously has been preserved, and the sense of, service being a, fundamental part of who we are is important. And what was so important, I think, was the inaction part of it, right? Because I'm a words guy. I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, I believe in the importance of words, but actions are way more important. Pretty words do not really get it done. And it's important to fuse those words with walking the walk. And so that's so important. And I think Peter just embodies this in the purest way. He's just such a, kind, decent man who is just in this really gentle, respectful way, has pushed the college in some great directions, continues to, even years after his retirement. He's been the guiding light behind this Friends in Humanics scholarship. And he always gives this really heartfelt speech during these events that we have about it that I look forward to so much, because it just defines sincerity. So that, to me, I think Peter is just at the center of this when I think about humanics. But it's always a big day. It's always exciting when people are, the next vision or version of, the humanics professor comes in. It's connected me with people that I might not have met well on the campus. I mean, this past week, I had a meeting of the MLK speaker committee, and it was just such a great group. And Tony Hill, who is a professor of social work, who grew up in the city of Springfield and went to Springfield College and taught in the Springfield schools, and is just a good soul. Someone I might not have met really without humanics. There's something I had said in the meeting that he really got him thinking about something. We just sent some email back and forth, and that sort of connection, pulling to people's best, what matters most to them, believing so strongly in the college, those moments just sort of revitalize you. They regenerate the energy. It's about a recommitment. Right? That word to me, I keep a little index card up in my office in Weiser Hall that just has that one word on it: recommit. Right? Because I know that there are just times I'm just going to fall off my discipline, or I'm not going to live up to what I, want to be all the time, and it can be frustrating and dispiriting. But to just remind myself, okay, get back on it, recommit, do it. And that's a lot of what you get in the humanics tradition, is a recommitting to this fundamental mission. Just so important, I think.
That's well put. So that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to ask. I know if either of you has stories, anything else you want to add, I'd like to open up to both of you before we go. So President Cooper first, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I really look forward to Dr. Coughlin's work. I think that's what's exciting about this particular program, is it's never done. And I think she's going to have a challenge, as I mentioned earlier, talking about leadership in the pandemic and through these times, and how do you find humanics? And perhaps that really is the challenge for all of our future distinguished professors. How do you find humanics in everything we do? And the answer is, it's always there. And if it's not there, why isn't it there? And how do we reorient or recommit our work to ensure that we don't stray far from it? And from my perspective, even in all of these troubling times this fall, the humanics, the humanity, the reality of we will survive this time together, and it'll be because of the people. So I'm looking forward to the next distinguished professor of humanics after Dr. Coughlin, and I don't ever feel like they're trying to top each other. It's just a building. It's an iterative process where they build on the ideas of those that came before them. And I think there's nothing more powerful at a college than to have that renewed scholarship and research, because there's a component of it that has not only research, but also reflection. And that's what continues to make Springfield College so special and unique.
Mm-hmm. Anything else for you, Marty?
I would also say that I'm very much looking forward to Dr. Coughlin's year as humanics professor. I mean, she is just one of those classic Springfield College people. And there's just zero ego attached to her. She just digs in, works hard every day, all the time, often behind the scenes, in great support of various initiatives in the college, is someone who's probably been invisible or loosely visible to most students for a long time. They may not know who she is necessarily, but she is just someone who is, just feels Springfield College very deeply. Its mission, you just sense it strongly, just burning within her. And I know that this is something that she's going to take very, very seriously, and that it's going to matter to her, and it's going to matter to all of us. So it will be a big moment, and I, look forward to her presentation, and also, yes, to the next person and the next and the next, because it does feel like it is this sort of, perpetual flame that's out there, and this torch that we carry for a while. And I think people do it with a sense of honor and excitement and respect. And and this is also, of course, it's just one piece of humanics, is the humanics professor, because it's, our students embody this so deeply. We feel this all the time. They're just the sense of, good, earnest people who care about others, who aren't coming to Springfield College to, become investment bankers. Not that there aren't noble and kind investment bankers out there. I'm sure there are, but it's, so many people coming into fields where it's just important to them to help others, important to them in the little speck of time that we're here on this planet to make a difference. You feel that. It's one of the things that just makes being a part of the Springfield College community such an honor and such a special thing. And what do you call that? Well, I think you call it humanics. And so it's a great opportunity. I appreciate you putting this podcast together. I think it's a really worthy idea, and I think it'll be a great contribution to the college for many, many years to come.
Yeah. And I thank you both for joining. As President Cooper mentioned, all of the definition of humanics, the history of the professors, their work, that's all online now through Springfield's website. It's not so much of a struggle to find that information anymore. And this podcast is hopefully another level to get to know those professors that are still living, or get to know the impact of what those did who aren't with us anymore. So this was episode 1. Next, we're going to have Judy Van Ralt, and hopefully work backwards from there. So appreciate everyone who listened. Thank you guys for joining. And I think we hit on just about everything we set out to do.